Hi there, it's Laura Lane with JLA, and I am going to take you over to Transaction Desk today. This way you can create templates so that you can easily, quickly write forms that are mostly already pre-filled, so just going to save you a lot of time and work and looking around for everything that you need. So you can go into Transaction Desk several ways. We're going to start with templates, so we're going to pretend that you don't already have a property picked out. We'll get into that in a later video, but just click Transaction right here after you're logged into MLS already into Matrix, and just click Transaction Desk. Okay, once Transaction Desk opens, yours may look a little bit different. Of course, I've been using mine for quite a while, so it's going to have a lot of names and so forth already opened up there. This is taking just a few minutes to get loaded. Let me close out everything else and make sure it's not slowing us down. So it'll give you a chance to catch up too. If you're bouncing around between two screens, you may be able to open one and have the other one open next to you. Okay, so you should first come to your agent dashboard. Again, if you have transactions, they'll be listed in the transaction area, forms, signatures. But since we're working on templates, go right over here to this setup button. Just click that. Okay, sorry about the delay. Right here, transaction templates. That's what you're going to click to create transaction templates. Now, I already have templates created, so I'm going to go into, first I'm going to show you as if you didn't have anything on this list and start to create another one, but then I'm going to come back into the representing buyer that I already have created. So if you have nothing here on this list, if you're just starting out that you would just click add right here to create a new one. And you're going to name it. So we're starting off with buyer. Of course, you can come back later and do seller or lease. Those are the three main ones that I keep, is your buyer, seller, and a lease packet. So you can name this whatever you'd like. I'm going to name this buyer practice. Since I already have one, I'll be deleting this later. And then you're going to select the type. So obviously you're representing the buyer if you're doing this one here. So residential buyer side. You can add a further description in here if you want to. Maybe you're kind of describing what you're doing, but I don't actually have any use for it. It may be just help you organize a little bit better. I don't use it, so you don't have to put anything there. And then you would click save. Okay, once you save that, you're going to see all the places that you can add things here. Now, you don't have to worry about adding contacts yet, because that's going to change, and your information is already auto-populated in 95% of the cases. If it's not, just let me know and I'll walk you through that. But your information, the agent on the other side of the transaction, once you get that far, is already going to be added in there. The main thing you're going to be adding is forms. This is the most important thing. That these are all the forms that we typically use, your 1 to 4 family, your information about brokerage services, your third-party financing, all the things that you want quick access to when you're ready to write that contract. Also keep in mind that when you go through Matrix and you select the property first on HAR or HAR, and then you select this template, it's going to autofill all of the property information, tax information, all that for you. So you don't have to worry about any of that right now. You're just having all the most common forms accessible to you. So you're going to click on forms, and since this is brand new and we're just creating it, you don't have any yet. So all you're going to do is select this plus button over here to start adding your forms. Okay, so one thing you'll notice is you don't have to pick which provider to look for the forms on. You can just start typing the name of any form and it's going to auto search all available for you. So we all know one of the most important and what we need to start off with is information about broker services. So as soon as you type any different part of that label, it's going to bring up everything available. So right now, since we're representing the buyer, we're going to select the selling side. I don't even know that there's any difference on those, but for some reason it has buyer or seller, so we're going to select that. Now normally you can just click add, but we're not going to right now because I find it faster if you're adding several to just backspace and then start on your next one, and you're going to be putting them each into a basket. So representation agreement is something else that we always need submitted with our contracts now. So residential buyer tenant representation agreement 1501. You can select that there. It's in your basket as soon as you selected it, so you can go back to the next one. Now just to save time, I'm going to start using some of the numbers only because I have them written down. So I know that 1 to 4 is form 1601, but if you're not familiar with the name of form and you want to add this later, then you would just start typing 1 to 4 and it will find it for you. Okay, or if you know the name of the contract, you can put 1601 and it's going to bring up that same one. So that's our next one. We almost always use 1 to 4. Buyer's representation, information about broker services. Another form that we almost always use is your third-party financing. So that's form 1901. Okay, go ahead and add that one. Very often, a lot of the homes that we're selling are in subdivisions that have a mandatory homeowners association. I think that's form 36-8. Okay. That's there. You'll want to add that one. Again, this doesn't mean you have to use this form for the next transaction. If the next one you're using is not in a mandatory homeowner association, you simply don't fill this one out. You don't add it to your contract, but it's there. It's accessible if you need it. So the purpose of the templates is just have them handy, but in no way means that you have to use it for every time you use this template. It's just there. You can select it, or you can ignore it, or you can delete it once you're in that specific property. Okay, disclosure of relationship. I don't use this that often, but I have seen several other agents using it. I guess it doesn't hurt. It's just saying you're, I guess, basically not getting a kickback from any other company that you might recommend, or that no one else in the transaction is. Let's see, what else do we need here? For your protection, I think that's a very important one. Always, always, always include your for your protection, get a home inspection. Whether your clients decide to do that or not, we always recommend it, and we want to have proof that we have recommended that they do that. Okay, so add 1928 for your protection, get a home inspection. Okay, intermediary, you're not always going to need that unless our brokerage is on both sides of the transaction, but I like to have it there handy. One thing, it reminds me not to forget it. If I'm writing up a contract and it just didn't cross my mind, well, it's there then. I don't have to worry that I've forgotten to include that. Protecting your home, 2507. That's another one of those kind of CYA forms. Of course, it's not saying that the home has mold, but it is saying that you gave your client information about that. So you'll want to add that to your template. Information about insurance is another one that's handy to have. It looks like you've got an option on listing or selling side. So since we're doing buyer right now, we'll select the selling side. Amendment is something that you don't always need, but sometimes there's a little bit of countering back and forth, especially after inspections. Maybe they decide to negotiate something, maybe the price changes, whatever it may be, the closing date changes. You're going to use this form pretty often, so it's kind of good to have in your template ready in that file once you have a property going, so it doesn't hurt to add it there. Amendment for backup, you're certainly not going to need as often. It's kind of up to you whether you want to add that one or not. If you do, it's 11-7. In case you're writing a contract and someone else has already accepted a bid and you still want to be the backup, you can have that handy. Another one we want to go ahead and add, it's really been kind of scary what's going on with wire fraud, so our broker has definitely recommended we use this whenever possible. I would go ahead and add it. It's just warning your clients that it's a possibility and to be very careful, so it certainly doesn't hurt to have it. Then the last thing that I can think of anyway, of course you can always add anything you want to add here. These are just ones I use. The last one I can think of is your buyer's walkthrough, which you're going to need at the very end. So I don't remember the name of that. I'm just going to start typing it to find it. Let's see, sometimes if it doesn't find it, just put in, there you go, buyer's walkthrough and acceptance form. So at the very end, this is the form they're going to fill out. Usually the day of closing, that's the best time to do it, right before closing. Worst case, try to do it at least the night before, but always have them add. So we've got at least 12 in our cache to add. Go ahead and click add, and those are going to put all of those there for you. If you watched my other video about adding your information about brokerage services, having it handy so that you can pre-fill this out. Now, I do caution you, you can open up any of these and pre-fill out as much as you want, but don't go too far with it. Most of this auto-populates. There are a few things I would recommend that you fill out. Most importantly, your information about broker services. So hopefully you have that printed out. You can go ahead and click on this in your forms, in your template, and you can fill it out. I have it filled out on my other ones. Of course, this is just a practice run, so this one's going to be blank. But you can go in there and you can fill it out. That way, every time you write a contract, you don't have to look up that information all over again. Your name's going to be there, your email, your phone number, your broker's name, email, phone number, your supervisor's name, email, phone number, all the license numbers that you need. So that's going to be there. I'm going to go ahead and click back because this is being a little bit slow anyway, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It'll take you a little while to add those in. I'm going to go back to the forms again so we can kind of look over what else you might want to pre-fill. On the 1 to 4, there's really not a lot that you're going to pre-fill because it could change depending on what each buyer needs, and you'll fill that out once you've actually selected a property and you're past the template stage. Your buyer's representation, there is some things you can pre-fill in here. Just make sure your name is in there. If you have, you might want to fill out that line that says Harris County. I'll open it up real quick. Hopefully it won't take too long to open and show you some of the things you can pre-fill if you want to. Just saves you some time when you're writing the contract or you're sending that over to your client. The most common items are already going to be filled in there. So you won't fill out client because you don't have the client yet, but once you do, you'll fill out that part, or it's going to auto-populate this for you once you add your contact to the transaction. This is past templates though, so don't worry about that, but you can put in your broker's information, your office address, phone number, email, fax. Okay. Of course, you wouldn't put in the dates yet because those don't exist yet. I would check intermediary. There's almost no case where you're going to have someone that is not going to allow intermediary, so I would check that because it is pretty common. You're just saying that they agree to let you do intermediary. Broker's fees, it's kind of up to you if you want to fill this out right now. Of course, you could say that typically the parties agree the broker will receive a commission as follows at 3% of the gross sales price, or if it's a lease, it would be 50% of 1 month's rent. So you could go ahead and fill those in. It just, if something changes on one of the clients, you might have to change that part, but it's going to be pre-filled in for you otherwise. Protection period, I usually see anywhere from 60 to 90 days. You can pre-fill that in. Use Harris County for payments. You can leave that one filled. Here you want to check anything you're going to typically, you don't have to check anything here. But you're going to be giving them an information about broker services anyway. It's pretty safe to check that. Or if you want to always include all of these with your initial buyer's representation, you can check all of them. Just make sure if you check these that when you send these, you also send whatever you have checked. General information and notice to buyers and sellers is a really good form to always hand out, whether it be at this stage or during your contract. And of course, you can pick and choose which one If you're not sure per transaction which ones you're going to use, you can leave it blank, not check anything. If you're always going to provide these, then go ahead and check that. I think that's about it that you would normally. This, I believe, is auto-filled once you're further into the stage. If you want to go ahead and fill it out now, just in case you can, but I do think it's auto-filled later. Again, now at this stage, I would just look through your other forms and see what else you might want to pre-fill. Again, there's some things you don't want to pre-fill now, and there's some things that you do. A lot of these are just going to have signatures, so there's not a lot that you're going to be like wire fraud. It's just a warning. There's nothing really to pre-fill in there. A lot of these are notices. If you go into 1 to 4 family, honestly, I wouldn't pre-fill. Mainly the thing you're going to want to do in each one of your templates is fill out your information about brokerage services. That's the most important thing. It's going to save you the most amount of time. And that's it. Now, I do want to show you that there's also documents. The difference between documents and forms is forms are fillable and they're already going to have your signature line on them. Documents is also available through Transaction Desk and through your template, but the documents are going to be basically anything that's PDF. So if someone has uploaded a seller's disclosure, it's going to show up in documents, not forms, because that's a PDF that they've scanned in and saved. Or if you have any file whatsoever that you've scanned in and saved, you can find that in documents. It's going to go straight to documents. Hitting my back button here and got a little bit off track here. Let me go back to the dashboard. You can always go back to the dashboard or home if your computer's kind of got off track or you accidentally hit back too many times as I did. You can go back to settings, back to template to go back into that template. We've basically just created almost everything you need to go ahead and write an offer on a property. I'm going to do a separate video on walking you through that and also on getting signatures, because there is a AuthentiSign connected directly to Transaction Desk. You don't have to go anywhere else to do that. You can get all your signatures electronically right here. And also, now that you have these forms, you have these templates, you can create it with a property. I do want to show you really quick though just how easy it is to use Matrix to get right over to a property. And I'll do a further video on this later, but say for instance you've got a client that wants to write a contract on a property and you find that property. Let's say we want to use something that's active, so I'm just going to use this as an example. This one has these papers right here means that there's already documents attached. I like that. That means Transaction Desk is going to pull that other agent's forms into the transaction for me so I don't have to look for them. So I'm just going to show you real quick. Let's say we've got Mr. and Mrs. Sunshine and they want to write a contract on Compass Court, 3315. You're just going to select that property in Matrix. And they've decided they love the property, they want to write a full price offer, we're just all happy, go lucky, everything's good. All you have to do, this is really, really simple, this little symbol right above the picture of the property is going to take you directly to Transaction Desk, okay? It's going to open up Transaction Desk for you, and then it's going to take you through a little wizard. It's only going to take you through the wizard the first time, and then you're going to have that transaction there for you. Okay, this is the wizard, this box right here. It's asking if this is the property address. Yes, that's correct. And do we want to apply a template? Yes. We just created our buyer practice template. I can use that, or I can use the one I already had made for buyer. So you would select your buyer template because you're representing the buyer. It's asking if you want to import the data from HAR, and I usually use that. You have an option to also import data from Realist, but HAR already has everything there. If the property is not listed and you're creating basically a listing agreement, you might go to realist because then you're pulling information before it's on. You're the selling agent, you would leave that checked, and you want to use the wizard, and you're going to click create. It's going to ask you some more questions. A lot of these are not necessary to fill out in the initial wizard, but I want to show you which ones are important to fill out. Contacts is probably the most important one to fill out now. So you're going to want to put your buyers' names in there. On this first page, really the only thing I select is that it's a residential property. Right here, it's not even necessary to do that. And also I've noticed lots of times where it says lot number and block, it's blank, but it says it right over here. I don't know why that doesn't carry over, but I usually just add it just because I can see it right there. So I can see that's lot 7, block 5. I just go ahead and add those two. The rest I leave blank and I just select residential. You can put anything else in here if you want, but I just don't find that it's necessary. You click next. There's 5 steps here. Again, most of it's not necessary. It's just extra stuff if you want to put it in there. There's not anything here that I normally fill out. Contacts, as I said, I do. Now, it looks like this one is pulling both the listing and selling, and it's doubled up. It looks like JLA is also the selling broker on this one, but I'm not sure why it's doubled up. This happens every once in a while. Don't let it concern you if it does. Anything that's duplicated, just delete it. So I'm in there twice. I'm going to delete that. The listing agent information is already there, so you don't have to look up her email or anything else later when you go to send the contract. Selling broker is in here twice. Again, this doesn't always happen, but every once in a while it does. Don't worry about anything at all. Just delete anything extra. Okay, and now you want to put your buyer's names, phone number, and address in there because it's going to auto-populate it anywhere it needs to on the contract. So you're going to click Add Contact, and from here you're going to be able to add it from Google. If you've got them saved in your Google Contacts, you can create a new transaction contact or add existing or add yourself. You should already be on there, of course, so you don't need to add yourself. But say, for instance, we want to add from Google because I have this client here. You can click there and it'll pull your Google Contacts. I have noticed one glitch in this part. It doesn't always take the email also. It'll put their name and their phone number, but it doesn't always auto-populate the email, so you might have to type that in, or you can create a new transaction contact. So you definitely want to select type up here. Don't skip that little line at the very top. You want to specify that they're a buyer. What that does is that lets Transaction Desk know where to place their automatic signatures on all these forms, so you don't have to drag and drop anything. So we're going to put just any old name here, Sam, last name, Meyer, email, whatever that is. Legal name, I mean, I don't think you have to fill that out, but Sam Meyer would be preferred signature. Again, you don't have to fill this part out. The most important thing is first and last name and email. Now, if you click this address right next to it, it'll also give you the option to put in their telephone number. I'm just putting any old thing in here, and you can put their street address. Now, this means if there's somewhere in the contract that it's asking for their street address, it'll add it here also. So you can put that there if you want to, and then you would click Save. Of course, if you're also adding the wife in the transaction or whatever another party would be, you would just do that over again. Add existing contact. Same thing, same steps. There is one other thing right here. If you know who your title company is going to be, I know it sounds funny, but if you know for sure who they're going to be, you actually want to add them now as a contact because it's going to autofill that in the contract. And if you don't, sometimes that line disappears. So it is, if you don't know, don't worry about it. You can always click it anytime. You can click over here on contacts and add anyone later. So you can add them if you'd like to. I'm actually going to go to Google just so you can see how that part works, because I can put in First American and see how it adds it. Otherwise, you'll have to kind of change it up a little bit. And it's going to bring up probably a giant list of contacts. So I can start right up here. Okay, so here's an example, First American Title, Crosby. It's close to my house, so if there's something closing in Crosby, also they're great. I'm not trying to play partial. I have favorites in many title companies, but First American Title, Crosby, I'm going to select this and see how it does this. Now, it did put First American as the first name, last name, middle name, title, and Crosby. It doesn't really matter how this is. Sometimes I'll just put in First American and then last name, title. It's just going to put it on the form either way. Now, if you have the address in here, okay, it's good. It's got the address and the phone number. You want that on the contract because it's going to auto-populate that. So once you get to that little space in the contract that you're always having to fill in the title company, the address, the contact information, it's going to automatically put that in there. So that's good. That's all set. So we can save that for this transaction. Of course, this is just an example. That way it's going to be in there later. Okay, again, 4 and 5, this is what Form 4 is showing you, or Step 4. It's showing you all those forms that we've already put into our template. So we have access to all these. Again, you don't have to use all of these. They're just there. They're there in case you need them on this transaction. And if you just realize now, oh gosh, this property it needs a sewer, and gosh, what's that called when you're out on a septic? So you can add on-site sewer facility. You just click add. This one actually doesn't, but I'm just showing you for an example. I think it's called on-site sewer facility. Let's see if it finds it. Information about on-site sewer facility. So you can just check that one and add it. And then you would also have that if you've got a property that has a different thing like that. Otherwise, we've already got all our forms. Next is documents. So this is the really cool part. This brought over what the other agent had already uploaded into Matrix. So it looks like there's a list of exclusions here, and there's also a survey available. So we've already got access to those. We can open it up and see it. If we want to see what the survey looks like, if we want to email it over to our client, before we create the contract, we can send that over. And here's what it looks like. If you want to get signatures, you would just click the pen. If you want to print it, you would just click the print button here. You can download it, pretty much do whatever you want with it here. Okay, and then I'm going to close that. So that shows us all the documents. Whoops, made my screen a little bit too. Don't pay any attention to this one. I actually have it saved on all my transactions already. I have the IBS saved both as a PDF document, and I have it in forms. So anyway, they're just there. You don't have to use them. And then you can click done. So now you've actually gone through the steps to create a transaction, and you're all ready to write up a contract. So now we're at this listing. We've got everything we need right here. What you're mostly going to use is your forms. So you would click go to forms. And I know this video is getting pretty long, so I'm probably going to cut this one off here, and I'll try to make another one that'll take you through writing up a contract and sending it. So for example, you're going to open up your 1 to 4. That's usually one of the first things you're looking at, and you're going to write that offer for your client. Well, one of the really good things about Transaction Desk is it auto saves constantly, so you're not very likely to lose your information. But if you worry a little bit too much about it, I might, if there's a power surge or something that might happen, anytime you're writing this, filling this out, you can see a lot of it's auto-populated. My client's name that I added is put there for the buyer. If I put the wife's name in there too, it would add it right here. The lot block, the description is all already in there. We should go down to just scroll through. You know, I think I forgot to select the title company as a title company, so I might have to change that. Of course, I'll show you how to go right over there to do that. But you would put your price in, what they're offering to buy the property for, whether it's third party. You just do your normal writing up your contract. You're very familiar with all that, I'm sure, so I don't need to go through all that, but just kind of showing you how some of it is auto-populated for you. You can still write in the rest if they're getting a service contract, when the closing will be. Of course, you can just click on that calendar button and it'll automatically enter it in based on what you choose. If they're asking for contributions, you know, the normal stuff that's going to vary with every offer is all going to be here. Now, remember, here it's giving an email. It's going to be a default. That way, the title company at least has an email. You can add your client's phone number. You can add their address. Always help out your title company. They need that information. It's best if they have it. Not everyone's comfortable because they don't necessarily want to give the other person all the information. If you're not comfortable, then at least leave the email there and then call your title company and give them the rest of the information. Any addendums you want to make sure that you have checked, or other, and list them there. That's about it. That's about it on here. As you can see also, what it's done is it's pulled information from the other agent. So it has their license number, it has their name, we don't have to look that up, it has their email, their phone number, everything you need here. You would just check here how you're representing. And actually in this case, we would be moving that over because we're on both sides there through the same brokerage. You want to make sure to fill in what percentage you're being paid there. And that's about it. There's so much more I can cover, but you know, just give me a call if you have any questions, or text me at 281-682-6801. I'll be happy to sit down with you and help you with it, or create another video that might be helpful for you. If you have any questions on this, or if there's another area I can help you with, I'm glad to do it. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful evening.